It was summer of 1559. King Henry II of France was celebrating the peace of Castile-Cambresis after a long battle with the Habsburgs of Austria. It was also a time to celebrate the marriage of his daughter, Elizabeth of Valois, to King Philip II of Spain. By the age of 40, King Henry was the King of France and father-in-law to the King of Spain and Queen of Scots. He had an intelligent wife and several beautiful mistresses. He had 4 sons and 3 daughters and was in great health. Life could not be better. Although he was told that he will soon die by a weird-looking doctor called Nostradamus. Yeah. But who could believe such a thing? However, he soon died in a jousting match with Gabriel Montgomery, the captain of his Scottish Guard. Surprisingly, his widow, Queen Catherine de' Medici, did not blame Nostradamus for his death. She actually continued relying on his advice until his death in 1566. That prophecy was actually the one that brought fame to the world's most famous prophet, Nostradamus. Let's see what was said in that quatrain. Quatrain 1 to 35, quote, "The young lion will overcome the old one. On the field of combat in a single battle, he will pierce his eyes through a golden cage. 2 wounds made 1. Then he died a cruel death." It was said that King Henry's helmet looked like a golden cage, and he had 2 wounds, 1 in the eyes and 1 in the temple. And both Gabriel Montgomery and King Henry had shields with embossed lions. Well. Even though I'm a big fan of Nostradamus, I have to say I'm not totally impressed. Lion was the most popular symbol during that time, and you can hardly find one coat of arms without it. Do you think anyone would put a pig or rat on their shield? And Montgomery was only 6 years younger than King Henry. How can you say it was a prophecy fulfilled calling the 40-year-old king an old lion, while calling his 34-year-old Lord Guard a young one? But Nostradamus did warn them about this before the tragedy took place. So no wonder Queen Catherine appreciated his service and kept him by her side. Since then, every film and book called Nostradamus the Great Seer and praised his accurate predictions on Napoleon and Hitler. But their names were spelled wrong and the details were missing. Nostradamus has 942 quatrains. It is not hard to find a vague quatrain that sounds like what you want it to be. Great Seer? I'm not sure. However, my perception of Nostradamus changed when I started reading his quatrains carefully. Unlike anyone else before me, I looked for clusters of quatrains grouped together. It is easy to find one quatrain and twist it any way you may want. Might you believe me more if I can find a cluster of quatrains predicting related events? Believe me, that was not easy. But I found clusters and clusters of quatrains on wars, the JFK assassination, ISIS, the French Revolution, and the list goes on. And I've only just started a few months ago. Do you still want to call me stretching? Don't believe me? Take a look at the wars in his Book of Prophecy, Century 1. It started with the French Revolution and then went on to cover almost every war for the last 500 years. Then Century 2 was about Doomsday. His quatrains about people are more scattered, but the details were so stunning it is hard to miss. Like Queen Mary of Scots, Queen Catherine de' Medici, King Louis XVI, President Lincoln, and JFK. Basically, it was so detailed and precise, you would think you were reading a news archive instead of a 500-year-old prophecy. While reading the entire book of prophecy, I can't help notice many quatrains about the 2016 US election and President Trump. First, I was quite confused. Why did Nostradamus write so much about the 45th President of the United States? He had only 942 quatrains. If Nostradamus wished to tell a political news report, then he probably would want to report on the 67 French ruler first, before moving on to number 45 in the US election. However, the answer soon became clear. He must be warning us what is in store. What may happen may change the world forever. Please note that I am not taking a political stand because this is about a 500-year-old prophecy. Anyone could convincingly call this decode fake news. But I would feel horrible if I didn't share what I found with you. Feel free to reach your own conclusions. I never said I am right, but I believe these quatrains need to be looked at carefully. I mean, before it is too late. Let's start with Century 1, Quatrain 39, quote, "At night the last one will be strangled in his bed, because he became too involved with the blonde heir-elect. The empire is enslaved with 3 men substituted. He is put to death with neither letter nor packet read." The next quatrain, number 40, must also be about President Trump. It reads, quote, "The false trumpet concealing madness will cause Byzantium to change its laws. From Egypt there will go forth a man who wants the edict withdrawn, changing money and standards." Trumpet is likely Trump spelled Nostradamus' way. I first thought there is no way anyone can, quote, "enslave an empire with only 3 men substituted." And then I realized that if we have 3 new Supreme Court justices acting together, we can change the country. No one knows how Justice Antonin Scalia died, but Trump did go nuclear and change the confirmation process. And although we only have 1 new Supreme Court justice, do you know how many cabinet members were changed in the last several months? Some people also feel Century 5, Quatrain 20 is about President Trump, quote, "The false message about the rigged election to run through the city stopping the broken pact. Voices bought, chapel stained with blood, the empire contracted to another one." Other than terror attacks, hurricanes, earthquakes, and racial tensions, what else has dominated the airwaves this year? Believe it or not, we still are talking about the rigged election 10 months after the election was set and done. And Facebook just announced they will be submitting the Russian ads. Is that the voice bot? Although I may have my own interpretations of these quatrains, several other people thought those are about President Trump. However, what I'm about to show you was not linked to the current time, at least until now. Century 8, Quatrain number 65, quote, "The old man disappointed in his main hope will attain to the leadership of his empire. 20 months he will hold rule with great force. A tyrant, cruel, giving way to one worse." President Trump is 71. Is that old? Well, based on what I found in this 2-year-old chart, he ranked 30 among about 200 world leaders. However, he is the oldest among developed countries. Well, I mean if you don't count Queen Elizabeth. This one offers a clear timeline. He will leave office in August 2018. However, sadly, someone worse will take his place. But is it fair to pin this quatrain to President Trump? Please let me know if you've found an old world leader that left office in 20 months. Actually, the UK's Jeremy Corbyn stepped down in just 20 months. He was 66 when he became the Prime Minister. But can we call him a tyrant? Not really. and I doubt if many people think his successor Theresa May is much worse than him. President Trump is older, and so far he has failed on every agenda since he took office, which we can't say he is disappointed in his main hope. He did attain to the leadership of his empire, but is he a cruel tyrant? He would be if he fires nukes and starts a war. Will that happen? But since I believe related quatrains appear in clusters, let's check and see if there is any clues in the quatrains before it. Century 8 quatrain 64, quote, "The infants transported into the islands, 2 out of 7 will be in despair. Those of the soil will be supported by it. The name Chauvel taken, the hope of the leagues fails." Do you think these quatrains describe precisely what happened after the 2017 hurricane season? Some quatrains give a timeline, and I think this one helped us confirm what, when, and where before the next devastating event takes place. Is this about the Florida Keys? Or the U.S. Caribbean Islands? Hurricane Irma and Maria destroyed most homes in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. What is 2 out of 7? Which 2 out of 7? I think the key to solve this puzzle is the word leagues. The United States has 16 territories, but some are small reefs with no residents. Wikipedia page showed 7 territories with pictures, with Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands being the 2 biggest. Could this be the 2 out of 7 Nostradamus was talking about? Are those islanders in despair? Of course. For this quatrain to be right, actions taken by the United States government must fall short of people's expectations. Will that happen? We will soon know. During my search, I found another interesting quatrain, Century 9, quatrain 31, quote, "The tin island of St. George, half sunk. Drowsy with peace, war will arise. At Easter in the temple, abysses opened. We know the hurricanes devastated St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, but St. George was spared. But watch out for St. George in the future. When St. George is half gone, war will follow, and that could be the beginning of a catastrophe none of us are ready for. It suffered serious damages in 2004 after Hurricane Ivan, but was spared this time. However, the fate of St. George could be the sign of the doomsday to come. I know you are probably disappointed in what we have found so far. Nostradamus, get to the point, please. We already voted President Trump to office, and there is nothing much we can do to stop hurricanes. Tell us something we don't know. Tell us something we can still do something about. Century 6, quatrain 33, Nostradamus predicted, quote, "His last hand through sanguinary, he will be unable to protect himself by sea. Between 2 rivers he will fear the military hand. The black and irate one will make him rue it." I guess you still don't get it, right? Let's look at the quatrain next to this, number 34. Quote, "The device of flying fire will come to trouble the great besieged chief. Within there will be such sedition that the profligate one will be despair." Do you know what sanguinary means? It means causing much bloodshed. How about rue? Search and you will find it means regret. How about besieged? Inundated by large numbers of requests or complaints. What's the meaning of profligate? It is recklessly extravagant or wasteful in the use of resources. So, in plain English, quatrain 633 means his decision will lead to a massive bloody end. Attacks to him will come through the ocean. The spot of military attack will be between the 2 rivers. The angry evil one will make him regret his decision. Century 6 Quatrain 33 sounds like Kim Jong-un's shouting insults finally get President Trump to press the nuclear button. And that is a decision that will lead to retaliation and a bloody nuclear war. It may be a decision we will look back on and regret, and wish that more diplomacy had worked before it was too late. While Quatrain 34 sounded even worse, let's ask ourselves, what is the device of flying fire? Come on, it's the missiles. And it will come to trouble the great chief. Besieged by his Russian investigation, the racial conflicts, the hurricane relief needed, and the debt ceiling crashing down on him. Sedition means rebellion from inside. But is it inside North Korea? Or inside the United States? I predicted a coup may topple Kim Jong-un. Could the 3.9 earthquake under Pyongyang mean someone in North Korea destroying their nukes? I would not be surprised if someone in North Korea takes President Trump's warnings seriously and decides to save themselves and the rest of the world. Of course, mainstream media call that a natural occurring earthquake. And whatever the reckless action from whichever side will for sure bring an end to all of us. Pretty scary, right? But the question remains if the US will attack or be attacked first. Ironically, the Quatrain description could fit both President Trump and Kim Jong-un. And ironically, both Washington, D.C. and Pyongyang are between two rivers. If I were to guess, it will be President Trump who will order military strikes against North Korea, which the U.S. will win after heavy losses of lives on both sides and being blamed for starting the war. President Trump will leave office in 20 months, but the one taking his baton will be worse than him. Natural disasters will hit us like a never-ending soap opera. The U.S. will fail to address the needs of the 3 million homeless U.S. citizens on those islands. So what can we do? We can pray for a peaceful resolution. And of course, if you're one of the few people that President Trump follows on Twitter, please tell him to think carefully before pressing that nuclear button. This is Ken Peters. Thank you for watching.